That's my sister.
Yeah.
Hello, sister. How are you doing?
She says it was Patricia. Hello,
Morning.
everybody.
We're live now.
We're live. Welcome to
Hello.
the stream. So we have Sam here from Life After Life, which I'm sure you all know by now. And we have Brett from Wolf Paranormal. All their links are in the description below. So we're kind of just doing this basic laid-back paranormal stream this week. And if you guys have any questions, jot them down. We will answer them for you or discuss them, whatever comes up. But I hope everyone's good. Hi, Tammy, Fairy, MCAT, Mark and Annette. Anyone I've missed?
I hope you planned a couple to start it off with before everybody started putting the topics on.
Actually, I really didn't.
I'm looking forward to next week's with the Australian paranormal, because a lot of that I've never heard of. I'm really looking forward to that one.
I thought, I haven't done it as yet, and it came up in discussion on your stream last night, and I thought that's probably a good one for me to do, is look at the Australian phenomena surrounding the paranormal. So Tammy has given us a couple of questions to start.
Oh, God.
So completely G-rated.
Okay.
So the first one is, and it's something we've touched on before, which spirit box do you feel is the best and why?
I'll go first, because once Sam starts, I'll never shut up.
Okay.
It's Sam's favourite topic. For me, I think the best spirit box is the one that suits you the best, the one that works better for you. You know, I like the PSP7. I know Sam hates it. I do actually quite like the PSP7 when it's working okay. I like the newer version because it's got a better speaker on it. The only problem with the old one is you have to carry an amp around with you if you use the old one, because the speaker built into it is crap. I've also got a Roberts radio that I completely love, but you do find that you do develop your own personal preference for one, and for me, it's whichever one you feel most comfortable with. So for me, it'd be my Roberts 9914 or the PSP7.
Very good.
Sam?
Mine is it looks like it's similar to a Joe's box. It's an RTC 2 box. Getting great results from that. It's a custom made box. If I was to put something second in line, is my Roberts 809. But Annie Roberts, I think way better quality than the PSP7, which I have grown to hate.
Yeah,
PSP7 and PSP11. Gary Galka has been trying to work on getting rid of the static in the PSP7. The original PSP7 didn't have static, so hopefully he will go back to the original board rather than messing around what he's doing now, because the PSP does work, but it's just there's artificial static there that's not needed. It does work. Back to basics, better quality, it'll be a good product. S-Box, big massive disappointment. But, for me, Roberts radios, Hank Roberts radios, and, the RTC custom box. Very hard to get a custom builder, though.
Yeah.
Very, very hard to get a custom builder. There's people out there building boxes, and some of them are pretty awful in quality,
Yeah.
So, that's a difficult one. So, for hacked radios, for me, it's Roberts.
Okay. I think so far the only radios that I've used have been the PSP7, the new PSP7T, the S-Box, and I did have the big box that Stephen made for me, the kind of amplifier box. I will always go back to the PSP7. I love the new T. But then again, I don't have the experience with a range of boxes such as Sam does, and I really would like to try delving further into that ITC world as well. So
You'd love one of the Robertses, one of the Robert radios. They're brilliant.
yeah,
And she's getting one.
Yeah.
yeah. Thank you. MCAT says problem with making something quieter as it makes it more complicated and more perfect failure.
Mm-hmm.
With the hack boxes, I guess. Yeah.
I don't know if is that referring to noise filtering. People sometimes use noise filtering, but what happens there is the frequencies are being disposed of, and you're losing out on an awful lot of communication there if you use noise gate. I'm not saying for people not to use them, but that's why I prefer not to use them. I've delved into it, I've tried it, I don't like it, and then I've got advice from audio engineers as well.
Yeah.
Not a brilliant idea. Now you get these boxes with some reverb in that. Reverb can sharpen the sound.
Yeah.
But your box doesn't, the real audio coming out of the box isn't that reverby, spooky sound. That's altering the natural sound.
Yeah.
And, I've been guilty of it too in the past.
Mm-hmm.
So I prefer just to use the tiniest little bit of reverb. It does help sharpen up that sound. But if you go too far with it, what you're doing is you're altering the natural responses coming out,
Yeah.
Pocket watch put there, my favourite is any spirit box that doesn't have that horrible white noise. And what I always say to people is, even if you hate it, train yourself to get used to it. Because if you're using a spirit box that is cutting out all the white noise, like with a noise gate, you are basically cutting out a hell of a lot of frequencies and basically relying solely on radio frequencies at that point. The other thing to bear in mind is if you go right back to the origins of ITC, it was all done solely with white noise. So
Yeah, in the beginning. Yeah.
yeah, the best thing to do is, even if you hate it, is try and train yourself to get used to it, because I personally have found all the best responses I have ever got have not come from snippets of radio broadcasts. They have actually come through in the white noise section. So, that's just a suggestion. If you can't get used to it, you can't get used to it. But just be aware, by eliminating the white noise, you are eliminating those frequencies. You're limiting what you're going to get through.
Yeah, that's it's a debate. Like, there is that side that says static is important. There's the other side that says, it's not the static, it's the frequencies. And that, and it's up to preference, really,
Yeah.
The one thing, there is different types of static. Some of it, you'll suffer from ear fatigue within a couple of minutes. Some of it you can put up with. I have a box here, and it's the first hacked box ever. It's the Radio Shack 12-469, the first ever hacked commercial radio. And that has a popping sound, but I actually quite like it.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was a guy called Bill Chappell. You might have seen him on Ghost Adventures. He was the first person to hack a commercial radio, and this, back in the day, was a kind of a fake iPod, which is basically just a radio that you could find in Radio Shack pretty cheap,
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yeah. What you've got to realise with ITC, the moment you start blocking out any white noise, any type of frequency, be it a noise gate or by removing white noise, you are limiting the frequencies. So you've got to find your own balance. You've either got to be prepared to put up with it and get the full spectrum, or you've got to understand that if you genuinely can't listen to it, and there are people out there who it does give them headaches and stuff.
Yeah.
You've got to understand then that you are operating on it with limited frequencies. So it's a trade-off either way.
There's different types of radios. There's what I call dirty radios and clean radios, and some I have, I have a few radios that I manually use. This particular one, it's not an overly clean one, but it's not too bad. But there is other radios, and there is a lot of static in it. And I call them dirty radios. But there is some radios out there, and the noise isn't there isn't very much noise at all. And in fact, it's not around me at the moment. I bought a radio for, I think it was £13, and between the stations, it's pretty clean.
Mhm.
You know, yeah, yeah. Ear fatigue can be a problem with some
Yeah.
radios, and some static can be quite soothing.
Yeah.
The problem with something like the likes of the S box is that the static overcome, was overbearing over the responses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cat says, do you clean up your EVPs or do you leave them as is? Personally, I don't clean them up. The only thing I will do occasionally is if they have recorded a little bit on the quiet side, if I'm going to stick them in a video, I'll put them through Audacity, increase the amplitude of them, which is just literally the volume. But I don't actually do any noise reduction or anything on them at all.
Yeah, I only increase volume too.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, at the moment, that's what I'm doing too. There has been a couple of EVPs where I try to drag them out of white noise, and sometimes, there is a price to pay for trying to clean it up. You lose something, so
Yeah.
that's why I try as much as possible. When you amplify an EVP that's stuck in noise, what you're doing as well is that you're amplifying the noise. But if you try to reduce the noise, you can lose stuff. It's to me, it's a big learning curve. It's getting through Audacity and all the settings and stuff like that. It is difficult. But if you can present stuff as natural as possible,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. See, that's the thing I found with the PSB7 to the S box when I was using the S box for a while. The PSB7 kind of sits along the same static. It just has this rhythm about it. Whereas when I was using the S box, I don't know whether it's a fault in it or the way it is, but every now and again it has this loud pop.
Yeah.
And it's very uneven in its sound, and I could never get used to that. It used to drive me crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought initially that the popping sound was a shielding problem, and I put the S box in a Faraday cage. But when you put radios in a Faraday cage, you're losing all the snippets that you need for your communication.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, maybe I made a mistake, but at the same time, I tried stuff out for myself rather than make an opinion on something without trying it.
Yeah. MCAT kind of made a good point there. He said, I don't clean them up either. I found that you could make an EVP say just about anything by cleaning it up.
To it.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know where the echo comes from. We had an echo last night too. I'll check my my YouTube, but I'm sure I have it.
I've got mine turned off.
Yeah.
I can't hear an echo. Can you, Sam?
No.
I can just a little bit.
Can't hear anything. Audio's clear as a bell here.
Where's my stream?
Kanga says she ain't hearing one either. You can pocket watch you one. No, it's clear as a bell for me.
Yeah, I've got mine muted, definitely. Yeah, when I speak, she says, I can hear it very, very softly in my headphones, sorry. Let me close the YouTube. We'll see if it goes. Hmm. We'll give it a minute.
Yodelay, yodelay, yodelay. Hee-hoo.
I can't hear it now. No, I can't. I can't hear it. All right, I'll leave it at that for a second. All right. This is an interesting one. I don't know exactly what Tam meant by this, but she said, "Who do you think is the best spirit to talk to?" I guess through the spirit box or in any other form.
Anyone that'll actually communicate with you.
Yeah, anyone that'll communicate and is not going to try and tear your head off. And no, I'm not talking about Desmond's or anything, but yeah.
I don't even mind the negative ones, because I think you've got to. I wouldn't encourage them at any point, but I do think it's important you experience the negative side of it as well, just to get that balance.
I think it takes a long, long time to distinguish who you're talking to get it familiar. Now, we've got, in ITC, we've got Philip and Dave and that, and partly according to the others, a lot of the others, Dave and Philip are some sort of communication techs in the other realm or whatever. But we seem to be all getting them. But, there isn't that much information about them. I'm not getting that much information. Others might be. But I can't work off their information, because, you have to get that information yourself. So, there's not very... It takes a while to get, to be able to turn on a spirit box and have somebody talk to you that has been speaking to you every single day.
Yeah. See, Tammy just clarified that. She said, who would be the best, as in, who would you love to have come through the box?
Oh.
My grandmother. Definitely my grandmother.
I think the same. And I think Tammy would probably agree, would be Nan.
Yeah. Friends and family,
Yeah, absolutely, always. There was an interesting question there. When it comes to spirit boxes, have you thought about getting in touch with a fellow YouTuber, the name of Huff Paranormal, for the kind of spirit box he uses?
I commented. I was very diplomatic.
So Sam has a lot of, I will say, experience in the ITC side of, the paranormal world. And she has a lot of experience using a whole plethora, and she has used boxes along that line and has found that some work better for her. And I don't have that much experience, but yeah.
Yes, Steve was very good at the beginning because he had the resources to get, the mini box, the geo box, the Joe's box, and all of those, well-known boxes. He even had 2 Frank's boxes, and then he, and he was getting great communication, getting great EVPs, and next thing, he wanted to be famous, and he started sticking pedals onto amplifiers and stuff. Thing is, he every so often he come on and say, "Oh, we've got a breakthrough," and an invention, a breakthrough. It's not an invention; it's an assembly. And every so often it would change from the Wonder Box to the White Box, the Gold Box, and all this. It's basically the same, but it's just an assembly. And, even now, the Miracle Box, it's not much different than the other box he has. And, yes, try different things. But the thing with Steve is, he's worked around the same platform for the last 5, 6 or 7 years with these pedals and that, rather than trying something different.
Mhm.
And yeah, it's just I still look at his old stuff, but I've no faith in the new stuff. I've no faith in some
Yeah,
of the ways that he's doing things. You
yeah,
Yeah.
know, personally, I have nothing personal against the man, but I have a lot of issues around
yeah.
um these celebrity spurt box sessions and the way he conducts the sessions in order to for monetary gain.
Yeah.
Um, these celebrity sessions for monetary gain for me is a no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The problem I've got with Uff is not just only the way he portrays his equipment and what he does. Is your dog asleep, Sam?
My dog has got the hiccups.
No, I thought she was asleep dreaming. Uh, it ain't just the fact of the way he promotes this equipment and really expensively. It's the fact there's also many examples out there that the stuff that's come through the box hasn't always been as authentic as it could have been, shall we say?
Mm.
All right. Hello, Jeff. So Pocket Watch has an interesting question. She says, "Can you tell the difference between talking to, for example, a spirit, i.e., a deceased person, and an elemental? Is there a difference? Can you tell?"
Um, Only normally, well, there's two parts to this. Only normally by the responses they give to
Mm-hmm.
certain questions. The first elemental that I believe, and I only believe it was elemental, uh, occurred when I did an investigation at Uber Stand. And the reason I got the impression it was an elemental was not so much what was being said on the box, but what I was actually just picking up from it standing next to me. You know, and we can't even be sure that the spirits and elementals we're talking to. This is what I always say to people: keep in mind, all you know is you're communicating. You can
Yeah.
never be 100% certain what you're communicating with. Even if they tell you they're a dead spirit, it doesn't necessarily mean that's the truth. You know,
Mm.
there's no obligatory lie detector machine built into a spirit box that filters out lies. And I have encountered things over the times I've done this, not only on the spirit box, but on the Ouija board, which have later proven to be false from what they've claimed. Not necessarily fake or non paranormal, but definitely not factual or truthful.
Mm. Yeah, I can't say that I've ever had any experience with um, what I thought was an elemental, but then again, like as you said, you wouldn't know. I have had a couple of words come through the box in regard to the Fae. They had named a couple of elementals. Um, and that's around the time, I think, Brett, that I started talking to you about it, probably like a year or so ago.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's the extent of my knowledge in the area. So
Yeah.
that'd be my kids, MCAT.
Normally, if you do get communication with something that claims to be of an elemental nature, it basically talks to you like a person normally. So there's no real way of distinguishing it. You've got to go on what they actually tell you, more so
Yeah,
than them saying anything particularly specific, doing or acting in any particular way.
yeah,
I do spurt box sessions almost every morning, and to me, they're communicators.
Yeah.
Now, in the past, I got a real clear response. I'm a gnome and that,
Hmm.
but I still have the skeptic mind that elementals speak English? They speak our language? I don't know. I can't
Yeah.
answer that, but I can't answer. I can't answer the question, are we talking to dead people? I simply can't. Sometimes they say the spirits and ghosts. sometimes to save their life, you're getting a lot of mixed information there. So they've been called in the ITC world. Have been called communicators for a very long time, and for a reason.
Yeah, absolutely. Hello, Evelyn. Yeah, actually, Madeline from Ghostly Whispers Paranormal, she messaged me the other day, and it was ironically around the same time that Brett had his funny little occurrence happen with the keyboard, key. So Madeline said that she was walking around doing bits and pieces throughout the day, and there was a drawer in her room of her chest of drawers or whatever. She's closed this drawer, and she came back a little while later walking through doing something and noticed it was open again and thought, oh, thought I closed that. So she's closed it again, and then it happened again once or twice during the day. So she said that she'd set up a camera and nothing had happened, and she sat speaking to whatever it was for a little while, and then right near the end she said it happened on camera. She saw the drawer, I think, move or something. So that's interesting. I'm going to have a look at that, Madeline.
You find a lot of the times with things like that, they tend to be more of a personal type thing, that it's something or somebody who wants to speak to you personally and not necessarily wants to be on camera doing it. A lot of the time that is more of a, or this is what I believe. It's more of a look at me, I'm here. I'm trying to get your attention sort of thing. And I think you do find with a lot of things like that, you can have it happen 40 times in an hour, and the second you put a camera on it, it'll stop doing it, and then you can take the camera off and it'll start again. For me, I think that's done for a reason. I think it's because they are trying to interact with you on a personal level. Could be a family member, could whatever he's trying to get your attention. Doesn't want to make it public, so to speak. It's very much a personal thing normally when things like that.
Yeah.
The funny thing with ITC, sometimes it's a mistake I make. I turn on the box, I kind of warm it up a little bit before I turn on the camera. The next thing it starts coming out, U B U C U D, all these insults and everything. Next thing I turn on the camera and they go, hello, all of a sudden, all the personality changes to be nice and friendly and that, and you're waiting for all these swear words and that, and they just don't come.
Yeah.
It's very
They
strange.
know what they're doing.
Yeah, very strange. The last couple of weeks, I'm getting the same voice saying "love you," and at different times. It's kind of weird. But I've had even in the last couple of weeks, some of the most foulest swear words that wouldn't come out, on radio broadcast, and that next thing, turn on the camera, next thing, everything's all nice and calm and friendly, and just everything just completely changes,
Yeah. The moment you switch the camera on.
Yeah.
So this person that's saying love you, is that during your sessions? Is that during your recordings?
Yes.
Yep.
No, I don't point any of this stuff out because I just record raw and that. But it's been kind of it's strange. Now, is it an advertisement on the radio? I don't know. But I'm kind of thinking that it is some sort of communication, because sometimes you get that feeling, you get that tone, that you're not. You've got see, the reason why I turned the radio on before I turned the camera on is to tune my ears to the rhythm of the scan.
Yeah.
The regularity of the snippets coming through or whatever. And you're looking for a break in that normality, which can happen with stray signals, don't get me wrong. But when you get different tones of voice coming through, that's that's the thing that jumps out, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. MCAT says, have any of you lost footage? He said, I've had EVPs I've clicked out of for friends, sent them to friends, and they were blank.
Say that again.
So he said, have any of you lost footage? I've had EVPs I've clicked out of for friends, sent them to them, and they were blank. So I think what he's saying is he's had EVPs that he's heard, and then
Yeah.
he'll close it and send it to friends, but it'll be blank when he sends it.
I have had files disappear off my computer. Not often, but I think it's occurred about 2 or 3 times where
Wow.
they just literally disappear off the computer.
I know other people that have had footage, they'll come home and they'll load videos onto their computer and it'll corrupt. It'll be a corrupt file and they can't retrieve it. I've never had it happen. What about you, Sam?
I've had it happen in the Cooney and Ghost House. The first time I went, I was raging because I actually captured an orb, and the orb actually went past my head. You could feel the static and everything.
Wow.
And the only piece of footage is that survived that was me jumping out the window in pure and utter panic, because I, at this stage had no paranormal equipment, didn't know anything about paranormal investigating, but I was very interested in that. And I went in there with a lot of fear because it's portrayed as a extremely negative place. But I was physically sick leaving that house.
Yeah.
And the camera was on me when I was on the side of the road, being pretty sick, to document it, and none of the footage actually survived.
Yeah.
But I think the basis of the question is communication. Does communication sometimes disappear from actual footage that still survives? It hasn't happened to me, but it's happened to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Where there was communication, and then the communication just disappears. The file stays there, and the communication's gone.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
it happens a lot with EVP, actually.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had that. I've been sitting down and I've been listening during editing to footage and I'll hear something and I'll be like, wow, that's like really, really clear. So I'll mark it down and then I always go back through my footage and have a listen through before I upload it. And sometimes they're just gone.
I've had that loads of times.
Have you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one thing that we have to be very, very careful with headphones is don't have noise cancelling headphones for
Yeah.
for editing or doing ITC work. The other thing too is we discussed before the show, file compression. File compression, you could lose information that way as well.
Yes. Yep.
Try to, especially EVPs, EVP recorders. You get some of these cheap EVP recorders, and they record in MP3, if at all possible. It does not to say that you can't get EVPs on MP3, but it's a compression, and what happens in compression is it squeezes down. It squeezes down.
Compression on MP3. It's a
It's
very drastic one.
it squeezes down. It squeezes down the file to a smaller size, and then it disposes of frequencies that the human ear can't hear, and that. But sometimes that's where the EVPs are. So, if at all possible, with EVP recorders, recording in the raw format, raw file wave format.
Yep.
But when it comes to YouTube and when it comes to video and that, it can be compressed onto MP4. Are we losing are we losing information there? Possibly, we
Yeah.
can't rule out that possibility.
You definitely are. You get into compression because
Mm.
the second you record in MP3 or MP4 format, it automatically the format itself automatically compresses. The second you post any video to YouTube then does their compression on it, so your audio and your video gets doubly compressed
Yeah.
on
Mm.
YouTube.
Pocket watch. Have you had any animal sounds such as dog barks or meows coming from the spirit box?
We did one of my recent streams. I don't know whether it was last week's or the weeks before. Not the one I've just done. I don't know whether it was last week's or the weeks before. I actually heard a meowing on the spirit box that Sam did at the end, and I actually commented on it. If you go and look at I'm sure it was on my stream, and I actually commented and said, "Oh, that sounded like a cat meowing." Yeah, very recently actually, and on a live stream. It's either on mine or Sam's, but I think it was mine. I ain't sure, but I think it was on my stream, and I actually
think it
commented,
was.
that sounded like a cat meowing.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had growls, and I've had growls actually in the Cooney Ghost House, which sounded like a dog. It didn't sound demonic to me because I at the time that last time I went, I was more sort of open minded, and actually I might be one of the people that lasted the longest in the Cooney Ghost House. I was there all day and most of the night actually.
Wow.
And we got some dog growling, and the Sharon Rectory was actually an EVP, but I did get dog growling from the Spur box at the Cooney Ghost House.
Yeah. I can't, that I can recall, I can't remember. I would have to go back and look through my footage and that. If I have ever captured anything, it hasn't been significant enough for me to remember it. But yeah.
We get a lot of robotic sounds as well. Robotic voices. Where the theory is that the communicators are trying to gather the frequencies, and they didn't quite gather the frequencies for the proper communication, and it just comes out all robotic-y.
Yeah.
Yep.
And people get scared of that, but it's not something to be scared of because we don't actually know what the phenomenon is.
Yeah.
See, this is the problem. Some people think that they just pluck random words off the radio and use them to form sentences. Other people believe they directly take the frequencies of various sounds and then meld them to make a sound. So we've got no way knowing which way around it is anyway.
Yeah, sometimes
something's definitely happening.
Yeah, sometimes you'll get a long word with a number of different syllables.
Yeah,
like fragmentation. That's what fragmentation is. When a word with a number of syllables is said with a couple of different voices.
Yeah.
Each syllable is a different voice sometimes, or sometimes there might be a different voice in the middle. But the word comes out, but it's two different voices actually saying the word. Each syllable is a different voice, and it's sort of jigsaw together like that.
Yeah. See, now it's the other way that convinces me. If you get a particularly if it's say a sentence said, and that sentence is said over the space of 2 or 3 seconds by the same voice, that is more convincing to me than having something said in different voices, because something said in different voices could literally just fall down to random luck of you hitting 3 separate frequencies and it just chopping that bit as it currently scans in and pulling it and forming a word like a phonetic sound bank does. If you're getting a sentence said over 2 or 3 seconds in the same voice on a spirit box that is scanning at in milliseconds, that is more convincing, because technically you should be off that. If it was just a piece of radio, it would have been off that voice in 50 milliseconds. That's how fast it scans if you do a really fast one. So the more you're getting the same voice, the more convincing it is that this is actually some kind of sound manipulation rather than radio sound being manipulated.
Yeah, the other theory is that the communicators don't have their own voice. If they're spirits of dead people, they don't have their own voice box, so what comes out isn't their natural voice
Yeah,
they had when they were alive,
but that's what I'm
and
saying.
that
That's
and
that's
that
one. Sorry.
and that's why sometimes different voices come out in the syllables. It can be a mix and
Yeah,
match sometimes. That's
yeah.
the theory around that.
What I was talking about was the different version, the different theories of how it's actually done. I believe if you can get a nice long sentence, 2-3 seconds in the same voice the entire time, that is stronger evidence that they are actually manipulating the frequencies directly than if you get one where it's chopped up with different voices. Because
Yeah,
chopped up voices can still be put down to your radio just happening to drop on somebody saying something on the radio, and it just takes that particular phonetic chunk of the word as it skims through.
yeah,
I'm saying where if it continues for 2-3 seconds, that is definitely proof that they are directly manipulated frequency, more so
yeah.
than just plucking bits of sound off the radio.
Yeah.
Very often, them full sentences are actually underlays. They go through a number of frequencies. They've gone through a number of scans,
Yeah,
and there's a radio voice on front of it, and it's the sentences coming out at the same time as radio snippets come out, which is kind of weird too. You know, where you sometimes get underlays. Which you wouldn't get in a normal scan.
yeah. But even so, if you're working on a scanning radio, that signal cannot carry on playing on your radio. Say if your spirit box is sweeping at say 50 milliseconds for a really fast one. Once that so every 50 milliseconds that radio moves up the frequency, right?
Mm. Yeah.
So how many? I don't know how many millisecond. Well, so what would that be? Milliseconds, 50 milliseconds. Basically, in that time, your radio would have actually gone way off that frequency.
Oh
The
yeah.
time it took for that voice to what's it? So I ain't a big believer in the underlay stuff because if spirit boxes are working how the manufacturers are claiming they're working, it's physically impossible for an underlay to occur because they've literally moved off the frequency too fast for that thing to play over there. And some of them, I've had sentences that have literally been 8 to 9 words
Yeah.
played over 5 seconds. There's no way a 50 millisecond sweep should stay on the radio frequency that long for the entire thing to be broadcast and said.
God
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, on a fast scan, on a fast scan, the radio snippets is going to be ever so slight.
Yeah.
When it's slower, you may get a little piece of radio
Oh
coming
yeah,
out.
yeah, because,
You know,
because the spirit box is staying on that particular frequency longer, the higher the number.
yeah, and yes, on a slow scan, you are going to get a couple of words coming out that's radio voice.
Yeah.
And people would say, well, you're listening to radio. No, we're listening to a different tone. We're listening out for a different tone. And we're
Yeah.
we're listening out, and
Yeah.
the overlay and the underlay normally is more prevalent on a slow scan.
Yeah, it would be. It would be on
Yeah,
that.
do you know?
And what you've also got to remember is, your radio station, say it's on 107 FM, but if you get to say like 106.8 FM or 107.2 FM, you can still slightly hear that station.
That's
But
right.
it's distorted. But at 50 milliseconds, that radio should be zooming through those frequencies that fast that it should be physically impossible for you to get any full sentence from one particular radio station because you literally pass through the frequencies way too quick.
Yeah, I have a box here, and it goes really really fast, and it's completely impossible to hear any radio coming out. Yes, Yes, I'm still getting stuff coming out, and that it's not a radio that I use very often because it's an Andrino circuit with a very noisy audio source.
Yeah.
It's it's a bit like a PSP 7 on steroids. It goes really really quick.
Yeah.
Yet I'm still getting stuff coming out, which is very interesting,
Yeah.
Mm.
See, that's why when people say to me, "Well, how do you think it's working?" I've always leaned to the side of they actually directly manipulate frequency. I don't believe they're pulling chunks of sound off the radio. I think they are actually, well, they are pulling chunks of sound off the radio, but they are then altering it to make it sound like whatever they want to make it sound like. I don't believe they're just pulling chunks of words and things off and then just stringing them together, because then
No.
they've got to sit there and hope that a particular word that they want to use is being broadcast at the same time that your radio is passing through the frequency. So
Yeah.
I genuinely believe that it's frequency manipulation.
Yeah, the skeptics would say, well, it was just pot luck. And I often say it was that pot luck. The thing is, I've had too much pot luck to be pot luck, if you know what I mean.
Mhm.
I've asked for my name to be said, and it's been said. I've asked for colours of objects, it's been said straight away. I've had number of different communication on the one session. There's too much. There's too much chance there. There's too much. I've hit the nail on the head too many times for it to be pot luck. You know, yes, pot luck can be occur where just happen the radio's coming out with something that is relevant to the question and that. But if you find you'll find with ITC, if you're getting direct communication a lot, there's too much happening there to be pure chance.
Yeah. I have a question here, and I know this is going to be controversial for some people because we've touched on this before, but let's answer it.
I was dreading this question coming up.
So, before I touch on spirit guides, because my sister's just kind of said something that I find fascinating, which me and her have spoken about, we'll answer pocket watches. So, what's your opinions on using mediumship in conjunction with your investigating? Yes or no? Or do you think the fakers have ruined it for the mediums, the actual mediums?
Mhm.
Brett, you go first.
Do I have to answer this?
I can give my opinion if you want.
Right.
Yeah.
I believe that mediumship can be used in a positive way in the paranormal. The problem we have is I don't believe there are that many mediums out there. I have always said I can count on one hand the people I have encountered who genuinely have done things that I cannot explain by any other means. And it's two, possibly three people in my entire life I have met who I believe have some kind of ability to communicate in that way. And that doesn't mean to say all people who claim they're mediums are fakes. I do believe there's people out there who are just genuinely deluding themselves and I'm saying that in the nicest possible way. They genuinely believe that their abilities are what they are. I personally don't believe it, because if you've got somebody who says, "Oh, but I proved," I've just said something and it's correct. Yes, fair enough. But what about the other thousand and odd other things you've said tonight that have proven to be so far off the mark? I think for a medium to declare themselves to be a medium, they have to show some kind of consistency. They have to be well above the law of averages in what they say. And you've also got the things of a lot of claim mediums will use Barnum statements and generalized statements that, if you sit down and think about them in a rational manner, could apply to anybody. Like, for example, I could say to you, Julie, I've got this woman here. she's saying, you were a lovely person to you, and she remembers you fondly. Nobody's going to sit there and think, oh, somebody thought I was a complete twat and didn't want to talk to me. So that will apply to pretty much anybody you say it to.
Mm.
There are Barnum statements out there that you can use. For me, a medium has got to get down to specifics, and not only get down to specifics, they've got to be able to do it consistently, not randomly once every 1,000 statements. So for me, you can go on any YouTube channel now out there, and the chat will be full of people who claim in their mediums, and they will put their evidence forward. Oh, but I'll guess this, or I stated that. Yeah, you may have done. Fair enough. But what about the other 1,000 things you said in the same, in the same session that proved to be totally wrong? The law of averages dictate that somebody making any statement at some point will it on a positive. It's how statistics and the law of averages work. For me, they have got to be spot on. They have got to be precise, and they have got to be consistent. And like I say, of all the people I have met in my entire lifetime who claim to have medium abilities, I can say 2 for definite and possibly a third are the only 3 people who have said things to me or given me demonstrations where I could not possibly narrow down what they were saying. And the thing about these 3 is they were all pre-internet as well, before Facebook and that lot.
Yeah. I think that, like, touching back on your thing, Pocket Watch, I think the world was just starting to get to the point where police and detectives and things were starting to use a couple of people that were very well known in having this gift, Dubois being one of them. But the thing is, since the internet has become a part of everyday lives, and because there are these other people out there who, well, we can say the fake mediums, it does make it extremely difficult for the ones that are genuine, because it gives the whole apple a bad name, I guess you can say, for a few of the bad people. So yes, I do think it has affected the genuine ones.
Yeah, I want to respond to Kanga's comments. Kanga's put, Brett, you expect everyone with a gift of mediumship to be an expert. A lot of us are in the kind stage of learning, and like everything, you have to develop and own those skills. Yeah, I'm perfectly aware. Believe me, Kanga, I was heavily involved with the spiritualist church from the age of 15. I'm very aware of how mediumship and development circles work. What I am saying is, people have got to be well above the law of averages, and even people who are new to mediumship, if they have got the gift, they are well above the law of averages, whether they've owned the skills or not. And that is what, for me, defines a medium. I'm not saying everything out of their mouth has got to be true, because it never does. Even with the best mediums in the world, that's not going to work. Even with those 3 I know, they got things wrong, and they openly admitted they got it wrong. But they were well above the law of averages in the stuff they came at, and they didn't use generalized statements that could apply to anybody. They were very, very specific when they gave information, down to the point of where, for one example, I had one reading off somebody who was a friend, and they described a situation that me and my friend were in. My friend had passed away, obviously, down to how old we were, where we were, and even to the point of what we were wearing at the time, because this person was relaying the memory of it back to them. And yes, they got some things wrong during that description, but they were well above the law of averages. The thing is out there, a lot of people are intuitive, and they start to mix that up with mediumship, and they suddenly think they're mediums. And this is another thing with me that is a big red flag with people. If they claim they're a medium and they suddenly start claiming they can guess things, like, oh, I can guess this date right, or very what's it, At that point, they don't realise they're not even describing the skills of a medium. They are describing the skills of somebody who's precognitive.
Mm.
There's a crossover, and because you are a medium means you can communicate with passed over spirits. It doesn't mean you've got any special ability in predicting the future. It doesn't mean you're going to be any luckier with guessing random things than anybody else. And you will find a lot of these people who claim to be mediums or claim to be developing mediums do this crossover where they get mediumship and precognitive abilities mixed up, and that for me is a big red flag and a big giveaway that this person is not a medium. They are more precognitive than medium, because it's very rare that you get the two abilities crossing over. Very few mediums are also precognitives. They get their information from the dead or from people who have passed over. They do not have any precognitive abilities whatsoever.
Yeah, I think that like for those with abilities that are learning, such as yourself, Kanga, I think that it's a tough situation because, as I said to you before, there are going to be people out there that are going to turn around and they're going to call what you do bullshit. And you've got to grow a skin thick enough that, like, you can turn around and say, well, you know what, it doesn't matter what you say. I'm going to carry on with it and all of that. But at the same time,
Yeah.
if you really want to develop, the gift that you have,
Mm-hmm.
get in there, use it as much as you can, and understand the differences between them too. Because years ago, before I started YouTube, when I was getting into the spiritual side of things, I went to the spiritual church in Canberra, and we used to have meetings once a fortnight. And they used to have mediums come up and speak for the group. And I spoke to a few of them, and they said that they said, you've got a gift. Everyone's got a gift,
Yeah.
but we all don't fit into the same categories either. So you got to kind of figure out where you fit and go with that. And don't
That's why.
take.
Go on, Julie, sorry.
I was just going to say, don't take all criticism to heart. Not everything is meant to be like an attack or anything else. It's meant to be just, kind of helping you see things.
What I'm trying to get across is a lot of people are not mediums. A lot of people who claim they're mediums are not mediums. They're precognitives, and they're getting their labels mixed up.
Yeah.
And precognition is just as much of a paranormal ability as being a medium is. But when you get the ones that always worry me are the ones who are the coverall people. They make out they're a medium, they make out they're precognitive, they make out that they're an empath. And it's like there are very few people on this planet who are at the level where they have all of those abilities. Most people tend to have one, sometimes occasionally two of certain abilities. And it ain't that people haven't got an ability. It's that a lot of people misidentify that ability and then label it wrong.
Yeah. And it is hard to start using it too. I've known quite a few mediums who they say, sometimes when you're speaking with spirit, they might send you through an image of a cross. And then you've got to look at that, and you've got to look at the other images they've sent you and figure out what exactly they'd mean. Are they talking about church? Are they talking about your spiritual side, a death? You've got to kind of piece it together like a jigsaw. So it is difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So the other thing that I was going to touch on,
You don't have
Tammy.
on that one.
Oh, sorry, Sam. Do you have an opinion on that?
We have worked with mediums, but we we've gone to a place where we were getting the tour and that. The rule of thumb is that the medium or high sensitive does not do the tour with us, because you're talking about going into rooms and the person says, well, a couple of weeks ago we seen a figure in the corner here and stuff like that. You don't want to be giving that information to them. So
Yeah.
the thing is, the medium is in there with us. I don't tell you who it is. Now, in one case, there was two of them. One of them was actually connected with the people that own the place, but there was another one as an investigator. Now, the thing is, some of them would get information from the medium saying, I'm feeling really, I'm feeling a static feeling over here. I'm feeling there's a presence of a woman or something like that. And some of the investigators would follow that line. And I refuse to. I says, to me, let that information come if it's there. So to me, it's a two separate thing, you know. But there has been investigators that are following around these mediums, getting the information from them, and going down that line, which I refuse to do. I want to keep that medium separate from me, and at the end of the night, give my information. Does it match what this other person is coming up with?
See, a genuine medium, in my experience of the ones I've met, will never claim to be right 100% of the time. In fact, they will tell you a lot of what they tell you will be misinformation or wrong, or them interpreting things wrong. People who try to claim they're a medium and everything they tell you is 100% spot on are the fakes or the deluded ones. Because, even the medium who I worked with when I was 15, Isabel, she was 80 years old at the time. She'd been doing it since she was a kid, and even she said 99.9% of people who claim to be mediums are not mediums, and these people, she gave me a lot of good advice. She said, always beware of people who try to make out they're 100% right all the while, because mediumship doesn't work that way and never has.
Yeah.
The ones you've got to watch are the ones who feel like they've always got something to prove. Most mediums will actually do it more naturally. They won't try and force their mediumship onto you and make out, oh, I'm a medium, so I'm right, sort of thing. They're the ones I'm always wary of. You find natural mediums behave in a much more natural manner, and they will openly tell you and admit you that they will get a lot of things wrong, but they still get way above the law of averages correct in what they tell you.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, when you're learning, don't be afraid to get things wrong and admit when you're wrong, because that's how you learn. Oh, I must have read that wrong, or whatever, and move on with it and learn from it. Yeah.
Yeah.
On a side note, I do like watching Amy Allen and some of the faces she pulls. I find it very entertaining.
Yeah, Amy Allen.
Yeah.
So, Tammy earlier told, so Tammy, when her little girl was born, my lovely niece, and she's, I think about 8 months now, started having some weird little things happen in the home. And quite often, my niece will just be laying, in bed or on her playmat or whatever, and she'll just start talking to thin air, just like gooing and garring and talking and smiling and carrying on, which is a common thing.
Yeah.
Do you guys believe in spirit guides? Do you think that's what it is? Do you think it's maybe a family member hanging around while she's a baby? What do you think about that?
Do you want to go first, Sam?
Yeah. When it comes to babies and young children, you see, they're not conditioned to the way we toe the line in society. So their brains are not polluted with our ways of living. So they're sort of free, and that's why very often kids are connected with the paranormal. They see more stuff than we do. They hear more things than we do, because their brains have not developed to the point of, we live in society, we block stuff out, we you know, they don't have a belief system at that point,
Mm-hmm.
so that their brain and their mind is free, is completely free,
Yep.
and which ours isn't, because we develop a belief system. We developed a train of thought
Yep.
where sometimes we actually, and it happens with every one of us, where we put the blinkers on to other things around us because we simply don't believe in certain things.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to a young child, those blinkers are off. They're not there. You know.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Brett?
I do and I don't believe in spirit guides. I don't believe, and this is only my personal opinion, I
Yep.
don't believe that you've got somebody who hangs around you all the while, constantly advising you. And a lot of the times, people like to do, they take on the theatrics with spirit guides. They're like Native Americans or Aboriginal ancestors coming back to help them and stuff like that. I believe that if you've got an ability, there are people on the other side who come and help. But I believe they swap and change depending on what your current needs are at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So I do believe you get help from the other side, but I believe they come and go as and when you need it. I don't believe they're there like some kind of counsellor for you constantly all the while. They're there when you need them, but that people could have hundreds of different entities visiting them to teach them different things. I don't believe it's one particular person who hangs around you all the while, and I certainly don't believe people who go, "Oh my spirit guide's big chief sitting bull. He's been with me since I was 5," sort of thing.
Mm.
I believe that they swap and change through the various parts of your psychic development.
Mm. I have always been of the belief that I think that you have one main person that is with you throughout your life,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't follow you around like a bad smell.
Yeah.
But I also believe, as in you said, there are people that will come to you at certain times, whether it be just to teach you a lesson and then go back, or whether it be for, you might be sick once in your life and they'll be there through that and then go, or whatever it is. I do believe in the theory of guides. What's interesting too, which I didn't tell you, was so Tammy is an intuitive, and every now and again, when I was down there with her, I said, "Do you often see things at the corner of your eye, like someone's there?" And she said, "Yes." Her and her kids have seen things every now and again where they'll think, "Oh, my daughter's just walked past, my elder
Well,
daughter or something, and there's no one there."
this is the thing, Julie. This is where people get stuff mixed up. If she's seeing things, she's not an intuitive. She's a
Well,
medium.
that's what I called it.
She's a medium. That is a
Yeah.
me. That is clairvoyance.
Mm,
That is clairvoyance at its best. And you've got to realise that mediumship is split up into different things, and not every medium has all of them. In fact,
mm,
a lot of mediums tend to have one or two of them, not all of them. You
mm,
get clairaudience who see things. You get clairvoyance who see things. Clairaudience who hear things, and then you get clairsentience who sense things, and then you get
mhm.
claircognience who know things.
No things, yeah.
There's 4 separate abilities under the umbrella of mediumship, and a lot of mediums may be clairaudience and clairvoyant, but not clairsentient and claircognizant.
Mm,
You know, there's very few mediums that get all of them. And this is what I'm saying, that there is so many mislabeling that goes on in the paranormal because people simply don't research the abilities they've got, and they
mm,
just sit there and claim they're a medium when in fact they're not. They're an intuitive. They're either an empath or something like that. That is not a medium. An
mm,
empath is not a medium. They are not getting their information from what most people would consider a dead person or a spirit of some
mm,
description. They are sensing it themselves. It is an internalized ability.
mm,
Mediums only get their information from external sources. And I've always said, and I'm quite happy to make the offer here to anybody on here. If anybody is convinced they're a medium and they want to prove to me they are a medium, I will happily sit there and have a sit-in with them. But I always pre-warn people. I am very aware of the tricks and the people. And now I won't say tricks. I am very aware of the systems people use, be it deliberately or unconsciously, to generalize what they're saying. And I will not leak any information about myself to them whatsoever. So if anybody in the channel wants to do a sitting with me, and I will treat it with a perfectly open mind, because, like I've said, I do believe in mediums. I have met 3 good mediums in my life. I just don't believe the vast majority of people are what they claim to be. It's paranormal for a reason. It's not something everybody. I believe everybody's got the ability. I just don't believe everybody's got the ability to utilize the abilities. If you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
They haven't taught themselves to.
Yeah.
I didn't have a belief in that until one day. It was years ago. I was part of an organization, and apparently, there was this medium, in amongst us. And one day she had this top on, and the sleeve was one of those sleeves with the big tubular thing where it came out like a bell, and it was like an angel or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And me and another friend decided to go out for a smoke. So we had to go down this corridor to go out the back. And it was a good distance away. And when we were out having a smoke, I was saying, so-and-so looks so cute today. And, she looks like something that you put on the top of a Christmas tree. Mm-hmm. And my friend says, Jesus Christ, she's going to fucking sense that. And I said, will you stop? So next thing anyway, we finish our cigarette anyway, walk back up the hallway, go back into the room, and the woman turns around to me and she says, I love Christmas. And then my friend goes, I fucking told you. And I was going, oh God. And she just, the woman then just smiled. And I was there, I was gobsmacked. How the fuck did she, and yeah. She just goes, it was impossible for her to hear us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But when we were outside, she just says, will you shut up? She says, that woman will pick up what you just said. And I says, nah, it's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. But I was caught out when I went back into the room, and I was flipping. I was just, how the hell, you know what I mean? How the hell did that happen? Like, mm-hmm. And I don't know. They just picked up what I said telepathically or something. I don't know. But it certainly took the wind out of my sails, because I thought that, there's no way, I didn't believe in any of that stuff at all,
Yeah. And this is the other thing you've got to be aware of with mediumship. People don't need to over push the abilities. If people are claiming they're right all the time, that's a danger sign you've got to look out for, because they're not. Mediums get probably more wrong than they get right. It's just that what they do get right is well above the law of averages for in a set time. And not all these people who believe they're mediums are deliberately doing it to deceive people. It just turns out they are very intuitive, and they pick up on things through intuition. That is what I always say to people. I'm a psychic as a cardboard box, but I am extremely intuitive. And there's a difference there.
I think in the paranormal, yes, we've got the equipment side and that, but we sort of try to be sensitive as possible. Not saying medium as such, but as sensitive as possible.
Yeah.
But I actually don't know the difference between all the different things.
Yeah.
Between mediums and sensitives and clairvoyance and all that kind of stuff.
these people who are training to be mediums or who believe they're mediums have got to get past this mindset of they're always 100% right, because they never will be. They will get a lot more wrong than they get right. But when they get it right, boy, do they get it right. You know, and it's this urge that people constantly try to push the thing that everything they say is 100% accurate, because it won't be. The only way, if a medium sits you down and tells you things that are 100% correct, and I'm not talking about general things like, oh, I've got your grandmother here, because, you know, certain people of a certain age, their grandparents are, you know, are bound to be on the spirit side. They've got to tell you specific things about that person, you know, not all that, oh, I see this grey-haired woman here and I really loves your crap, because that applies to most people's people. They have got to give you specific details about that person, but they have got to get past this mindset that they are going to be 100% right all of the time, because 9 times out of 10 they're still going to be wrong. And when it comes to things like the Are You Psychic tests I do on the channel, what we've started to do now, a true medium would be no better at guessing those things than anybody else on there, than your average person on there, because the dead don't sit there and predict the future. They don't. You know, not to that sort of carnival. I don't say they can't see the future, but they don't get to the point where they can tell you what the next colour is going to be on a spin wheel and stuff. That is not normally how the dead work, and very few mediums will be able to do that. They will come out pretty much like everybody who's got no mediumship abilities, but an intuitive person will come out way ahead of a medium in that. And this is where people keep getting all their description mixed up. Well, that's definitely not for me, Kanga. It could quite easily be for somebody in the channel. It means nothing to me, I've got to be honest. So I don't know if anybody else can pick up on that. But
an aunt right now, I'm feeling a lady who is an aunt showing me a blue bird on a silver chain, like you give to babies. I have no idea who she is, who it's for, or what I'm supposed to do with it. If it means anything to anyone, Kanga, they can let you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Someone else said something further up, I think. Kim said she sees things in her home, like out of the corner of her eye. And I said to her, I see that frequently. And she goes, no, but they're short. And I said, well, how small are they? And she said they're about 2 foot. And so Kanga said, like, elementals, maybe?
it could be. What you've got to bear in mind, if we believe when you die, you turn into some kind of energy form, even people don't have to appear as, 6 foot tall person.
Yeah.
They can appear as whatever they want to.
Yeah.
If you're in an energy form. So she could still be seeing people. It's just that they chose to appear to her as 2 foot high things.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, I had episodes here where I had to get an electrician in because my doorbell kept getting rang. And there was one case where I actually did get to the door and I looked through the peephole, and outside was a black mass. It wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't a humanoid shape. It was just a big bald black mass.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you see at the corner of your eye, you'll see something passing like that, and it could be something like that too.
See, dead. Kanga and Fairy and Dedra, what you're describing there are not mediumship abilities. They are precognitive abilities. This is the difference I'm saying. You're actually mislabeling yourselves. Mediums will actually be pretty much told in their head what it is, more so than, there is some kind of outside contact telling you that. What you're describing is closer to precognitive abilities. along the lines of empaths and and telepaths and things like that. This is where people mislabel themselves as a medium when in fact they're more of a precognitive. It's more intuition than getting information from the dead, unless you can specifically say, this dead person has just told me about this and they've showed me this image. That is not. No, precognitive is not seeing into the future as such. It's just no. It is and it isn't. Precognitive can be being able to predict the future, but it is also being able to know something instinctively, and that could be something in the present. Like I say that I am more precognitive than anything else, because I can meet somebody and I can get an impression of them that tends to be fairly accurate 9 times out of 10. Get it wrong sometimes, I'm never 100% right, but a lot of the time, like I could meet somebody, they could be perfectly polite, really nice to me, and I'll just get this feeling that there's something about them I don't like, or I could meet somebody else who comes across as really obnoxious and something, and I'll get the impression, I'm getting the sense that underneath all this, they're actually a really nice person, and it turns out to be correct in the long run. That's precognition. Precognition isn't predicting the future; it is instinctively knowing. It's not just future sight. It is knowing.
Mm. See, that's what she said up there. She said someone was showing her a bracelet with a bluebird on it.
But then you've got
earlier.
to, before you start working on what they're showing you, Kanga, you've got to work out on who's showing it you. This is what you've got to identify first. And you need to get yourself to a spiritualist church and get yourself trained properly if that's the case, because you're going about it arse to cock. You're trying to work out what they're showing you before you're actually working out who is showing it you. And it's the who is showing you who is the important first step to help you narrow down who it's actually directed to. You really need to get yourself to a spiritualist church and get yourself developed properly, because you're going about it in a very haphazard way.
Are you seeing the person, Kanga, or is it just the item that they're showing you? While we're waiting for her, MCAT said, why do you think people don't see ghosts, super spirits? My theory is because they're not looking for them. I like to go into that war if you want.
Mm-hmm.
Don't know what he means there.
Yeah. But see, when it comes to precognition, people get it slightly mixed up, because the definition of it is far seeing, and they read that as far seeing into the future, but that's not exactly true, because you can far see into the past as well. The actual strict definition of precognience is clear knowing, be it past, present, or future. Just because you're precognizant doesn't necessarily mean you know things in the future. It just means you know things. This is the distinctions you've got to learn. You have a good night, Deborah.
Good night, Deidre.
Night, Deborah.
I have no idea.
Yes, fairy does go into the future, but it also goes into the past. It's knowing before you are certain. Because it means I'm precognition is I'm talking about claircognizance, not precognizance. Precognizance is just one form of claircognizance. You've got clairvoyance, clairaudience, clairsentience, and claircognient. And the claircognient is the one where you can see the future, and that is precognition. But there is also, that is just the future part of it. But claircognizance itself is basically being able to know before you actually have the facts, and that can be past, present, or future. You can meet somebody and know all their past. That means you're claircognizant. You could meet somebody and know something in their future. That is precognience, but it's also claircognizance. Claircognizance is the umbrella description of being able to know either past, present, or future events without having, prior knowledge of the facts.
I don't know, Kenga. All right, moving on. What MCAT said. Why do you think some people see spirits and others don't? Do you think? Sorry.
Personally, I think anybody could see them if they wanted to.
Yeah.
I think it's an ability you can develop, but I just think some people, as you grow up, you develop mental filters, so to speak, for, just as a metaphor, you develop mental filters that stops you seeing things. And this is why a lot of kids tend to see things, because they haven't developed them at that stage. And I just think some people grow up and they never develop these filters, and it just allows them to see them. But I think everybody has got some form of paranormal ability, but it's just 99% of us just don't know how to access them.
Yeah.
We've built the mental barriers up to block them, to suppress them.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah.
We've done a couple of investigations of a place called Cumber House, and it's one of the most haunted locations in Northern Ireland. And it's a place where people bring new people to the paranormal and give them an experience and train them and stuff like that. But if you talk to the caretaker, he says he never ever experienced the paranormal, but he actually doesn't believe in the paranormal, actually, because I've heard private conversations filtered back to me. So he's not experienced anything, but we've experienced paranormal activity every time we've gone there. Some of it's subtle stuff. But if the caretaker believed and in his mind was looking for it, he probably would get it.
Yeah. Speaking of the ruins where you captured the figure, are you going to go back there? Is that close, or do you have to travel to get there? And do you plan?
No, we're talking about 10 miles basically.
Okay.
It's very, very close to the abandoned golf course where the guest house got burnt down, where we were in there a few times. It's only basically up the road from that. But we're talking about 10 or 15 miles basically. Yeah, we will go back to it. It is actually a very small place. It's only it's a triangular shape. It's like the shape of a slice of pizza, with an old church and some graves around it. Very, very interesting story because, the last time we were there, two ladies arrived and they told us the story about this strange looking grave that was basically turned into a front step of the church, where the minister or priest was so hated in by his followers or congregation, that when they buried him on the doorstep so people could walk over his grave. It's quite bizarre, to have this. You see these gravestones and they're flat on the ground and you got the engravements on it, but it's a big slab that's flat on top of the grave. That was basically turned into the front doorstep of the church, where the congregation can walk over this minister as they enter the church. a quite bizarre story.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the figure was actually found, captured, which I still have to look into it even further, um, and it happened during the day. It was sort of coming on to evening time when we got that capture. So not all things are at nighttime.
Absolutely. I'm just going to go back and I'm going to try and find that so I can link it in here for people to go and watch.
See, sometimes you do an investigation and you don't, at the time, you don't have a huge amount of knowledge, but when you further go into this, you learn more. Sometimes it's a good thing to go back on some of your older stuff. After all, even if you had no experience at all, you still went around there with the intentions of catching paranormal activity, and you're walking around with a camera which is picking up data all the time. You may see that data in the present time way different than you did back then when you previously investigated. And that's the thing, don't leave all your investigations dormant. It's always something you can come back on, and pick something fresh from, with new knowledge and fresh eyes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I have no idea what your name is. Is it normal to see hallucinations every day? I think it's just because I'm tired. Could quite very well be. It's like I always say, go through the normal explanations before you jump to the paranormal ones.
It's interesting because there has been tests done on the brain, in regard to different states of consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you're extremely tired, are you extra sensitive?
Well,
That's something that
it's a scientific fact. Sleep deprivation causes hallucinations. That's why
yeah,
that's why it's used as a torture method.
yeah,
But you've got to be severely sleep deprived before you start seeing things.
yeah.
Just seeing if there's any other questions. I have no idea who that person is.
Yeah,
I don't know what the name. I don't know how to even start pronouncing that.
yeah, I don't know. Is it Japan or China or Korea?
I think it's Japanese, but
Definitely East Asian.
yeah.
Sometimes I get equipment from Japan, and a piece of electronic equipment, and that. And I have a recorder here, and all the buttons are all in Japanese. And thing is, to cushion it, they would wrap it in newspaper and that. And I just find them newspapers fascinating.
It's Chinese.
Yeah. All right.
Thank you, guys.
I just pasted it into Google and see what came up, and it came up with all Chinese sites.
Well.
Okay. I'll tell you what, MCAT, I've got a lot of stories from when I was, I think I was about 6 and 7, and my dad used to drive trucks for a living and earned good money for it. But there were times where he would be on the road driving for almost 24 hours straight, sometimes longer than 24 hours, which is illegal now. And I used to have to go with him in the truck, number one, because I liked it. Number two, because every time he used to fall asleep, I'd have to shake him and wake him up.
Ooh, scary stuff.
It was scary. He'd veer off the road and, Dad, oh.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if anybody believes they've got any sort of ability, you need to get yourself to a spiritualist church and get yourself in a development circle, because there's so many mistakes you can make with it, and you'll find you develop your abilities a lot more efficient if you do it with somebody who knows what they're doing.
And they know how to guide you.
Yeah, rather than just trying to do it on your own.
Yeah.
I was told I had sensitive abilities, but they're completely uncontrolled at times.
I've
And
got balls. Does that count?
Partly controlling those abilities is sometimes a bit of a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where people don't switch off, and that can affect people in their everyday lives. And that's what I was, I was told that some people have this uncontrolled ability where they're trying to get on with their everyday lives and they're affected emotionally by other things, which shouldn't sort of affect them.
Yeah.
And it's to learn how to channel and control those abilities in order to be able to function properly in your everyday life as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's an interesting story. Speaking of Tammy, me and Tammy are two of these sisters that, will finish each other's sentences and say things at the same time. And, we've had similar dreams at times and things. It's weird. But, no, we're sisters. But, like,
in that respect.
Yeah. So I can't remember how many years ago it is now. Probably going back at least 10 years. Tammy had an accident, and it was the day after she got married, believe it or not, and she almost lost her life. She came very close. And since that accident and that near-death experience that she had, it's kind of almost numbed down the abilities that she did have. Have you ever heard of anyone having that? They'll have the opposite effect that people usually have. They'll lose some of it.
I have spoken to people in the past who said they used to be able to, do things as kids, and as they've got older, it's worn off, sort of thing. Yeah. But I think it's all down to these mental barriers that we society teaches us that, should believe in this, shouldn't believe in that, and it, regardless of what you say, it does sink in.
No, but for her, it was the accident. It was just as soon as she had the car wreck. Yeah, it was weird. It was almost like some of it was taken from her. And I said to her, it's probably still there. You've just got to figure out how to access it again. So, have you heard of anything like that, Sam?
No, not really. I don't fully delve into that side of things. But it probably is possible where you withdraw.
If you Google it, Julie, there are loads of cases out there where people have been in things like comas and accidents and come round and develop psychic abilities. There's loads of examples of it. So if if it can go one way, I presume it can go the other.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Saw trees leapfrog over each other in my hallucinations. Oh, God. Trees playing leapfrog.
The hallucination I had, the TV was crawling across the floor towards me.
Okay, when was this? Do tell.
When I was a teenager and tried magic mushrooms.
Oh, well, that explains it.
And the TV was crawling across the floor towards me. Never touched them again.
I had a colleague who was on magic mushrooms in a party one night, and he was driving home in his van, and he saw a steam train coming towards him on the road.
Oh my God, that's horrifying.
Yeah, with a wonky steering. It was one of those steerings where there was a bit of give, and you have to. He was used to the fault where you kept doing this to keep the car going straight.
Yeah.
So on magic mushrooms. I'm sure it was a bit of a dodgy situation.
Oh, God. 5 night shifts. Yeah, you're actually, I was going to ask you too, Fairy, with the recent, jabs that they're making people do, are you one of the people that has to have the mandatory jab? Because they're saying people in healthcare work and stuff have to have a mandatory jab now. I can't remember if it was you. I thought you said you worked with the nursing home or something. I thought it was stupid anyway. They shouldn't be making people have it unless if they don't want to. Do they do it there?
Jace works with vulnerable adults, and that was what made him deaf. He was forced to have it. There was no way I'm having it. They tried messaging me again the other time. I'm like, no, go away.
Yeah, I got a notification once that said, "Oh, you're now available to have the jab," and I ignored it.
Jace's still in hospital. He came out. He was only out a week and had to go straight back in again.
So he's back in again. Oh.
Yeah. Exactly the same thing. Well, he ain't got the blood clot, but everything that was caused by the blood clot was researched again. So he's back in hospital.
Poor fellow.
In there about 3 weeks again now.
Okay.
Yeah. I worked in the pharmaceutical industry, and when a product comes up, it goes through about 10 years of testing first. It goes through a number of years of testing. That's why I made the choice of not getting the jab this time. Maybe in the future, but we'll just see how things go, sort of thing.
Okay, so Kim said one of her stepdaughters is a cleaner at the hospital. She had to have it.
So anybody who's associated in any kind of healthcare, they have to have, over here they do, they have to have it.
Yeah, Jeff said if he doesn't have to, but if he doesn't, he won't be able to go into the hospitals.
Yeah.
Jeez.
They're basically forcing you to take an experimental drug, which is what it is.
Yeah.
Regardless of what they claim, it's an experimental drug.
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. I think it's ridiculous. I really do. Especially with all the issues they've had with it, and they're still trying to force people to take it.
Mm-hmm. Well, the good news is my tortoise house is coming on Monday.
Yay!
Or it might be a bearded dragon house yet. I ain't quite decided. I keep hovering between tortoise and bearded dragon.
What does a tortoise house consist of?
It depends. You can either have them in a table, which a lot of the Americans in Australia would use because they've got the nice sunny climate, or you can have a viv. It's a very controversial subject with tortoises because some people swear by vivs and other people swear by tables. And basically, a table is literally just a square box with a 10-inch edge all the way around it, and you just hang a light over it. I want to do it the Viv way, which some people agree with and some would don't, because you can control the humidity and heat gradients and everything better in a vivarium than you can with a table. It's a very controversial subject somewhere tortoises are concerned.
The second thing you mentioned, is that is similar to an aquarium tank, is it?
The vivarium is normally 3 wooded sides with a glass front and then ventilation.
Oh, right.
A vivarium is a terrarium is what you grow plants in, like a little mini greenhouse, and then a vivarium is the animal version of it.
Right.
Yeah, we can't get tortoises over here, Kim. I looked into it. You can get turtles, but you got to have a license for them. And actually, you guys get a little certificate thing with them when you buy them, don't you, Brett? Yeah.
Well, certain species do. Most of the European ones, believe it or not, have to have CITES, but the tropical ones don't. Most of the tropical ones don't, believe it or not.
Oh, I thought it would have been the other way around.
Yeah, but it's actually the European tortoises that are endangered. But the one I'm getting is captive bred over here anyway. So
okay.
But it has to be microchipped and come with a certificate to say that it has legally been bred over here.
Yeah.
It has to come with an Article 10 certificate.
You should have a raffle to name it.
Yeah, I should do actually.
Yeah, you should. You should do a raffle.
Name the tortoise or name the bearded dragon. Over here, we can keep
Yeah.
anything. The place I used to work at. We had pit vipers and spitting. We had a spitting cobra as well. Because we were one of the main suppliers in the UK for other reptile shops and private collectors. We imported all the stuff in, and then it went out to them. But we had also. I used to deal with all sorts. The spitting cobra, he was adorable. He was only about 4 foot long, but you used to have to put your goggles on before you went into the room, because as soon as you opened the cage, it'd spit venom at your face.
Oh, and that's adorable, is it?
He was adorable. He was the most cantankerous little bugger ever, but he was adorable.
Oh God,
absolutely adorable.
No, it's weird. I can't do snakes, can't do spiders, but I'll sit there and I'll pet a bearded dragon.
Yeah,
Very weird.
Jace was moaning about bearded dragons yesterday because he said he'd feel like he'd have to save the crickets. And then I pointed out that he don't like bugs, but he was still said, but he'd still try and save. And I'm like, no, you wouldn't. You'd be frightened to touch him.
He'd be screaming at you to save it. Get it out of there!
Do you know what, Joanne? That was exactly the name I was thinking of calling it, and Joanne's just said it.
Planchette?
Yeah, that was exactly what I was thinking of calling it.
Oh yeah, we had that discussion, didn't we?
Mm-hmm.
When I thought you were going to use it as a planchette.
Yeah, but you thought I was going to slide the tortoise around a Ouija board.
Yes.
Couldn't believe that.
I'm thinking, that poor bloody tortoise. And you're like, no, I'll just let it walk around. I'm like, oh, thank God. Oh, not one of my better moments.
The idea would to be put the letters in his Viv with food by him and see which ones he walks to see if he spells anything out. Not slide him around the Ouija board.
It was funny though.
I used to have those large terrapins way back when I was younger.
Yeah, I used to have terrapins way back. My sister was terrified of them.
They give an awful bite.
Yeah, they do.
And apparently, if you get a bite from them, it can be dangerous to your blood system.
Yeah, we can have pretty much any reptile that is legally be able to import. We can have over here. The only thing is, there's certain reptiles you have to have what they call a Class A license for, and that basically means you have to have a vet come and inspect your house, inspect where you keep them, and there's all sorts of conditions like they've got to be behind a locked door, and obviously the enclosures have got to be suitable. But pretty much anybody can have anything over here as long as they get the Class A for a venomous reptile.
Yeah.
But yeah, Joanne, I was actually thinking of calling it planchette.
Planchette. I like that name actually. I think that's cute. But yeah, a raffle to name it. That would be cool. It's going to be so cute. Brett will be like, "Hello guys, welcome to the stream," and little planchette was sitting on his shoulder.
You don't have tortoises on your shoulder in case they fall. That'd have to be a bearded dragon if I did that. Tortoises ain't overly fond of being handled.
So they're just like a show pony. They're just there to look pretty.
Well, they get personalities and they'll come and feed out your hands and stuff. You can't pick them up. They just ain't comfortable with it. They're a very, very low ground dwelling species, so they're a bit uncomfortable when their legs ain't on the floor.
Yeah.
Whereas beardies will just happily climb all over you and snuggle under your chin and
stuff. Yeah, they will. Definitely.
Kangaroo, I had a tortoise when I was a kid. His name was... Do you know, it's amazing how many people call their tortoises Fred, believe it or not. And
really?
Yeah, Fred used to be a very common name for tortoises over here. So can't you own it? I'm pretty sure you can own tortoises in Australia, Julie. Because there's an Australian guy I've been watching on YouTube, and he's got tortoises.
Well, when I looked it up, I couldn't find any information. It said that they, you couldn't get them. So if anyone knows any information about tortoises over here, let me know.
I'll find the channel out for you after the stream and say he's got tortoises.
Yeah, that'd be good.
He's definitely Australian.
Oh, his Viv has got a lid on it, Kim. I said the same thing. I'm like, he's got a lid that lifts up and he can close it so the dogs can't get into the little planchette.
Actually got sliding glass doors with a lock on them. And plus, the Viv is going to be like on something. It ain't going to be dog level.
But the lid opens too, doesn't it?
No,
like it's got a lid.
I've had a bigger one.
Oh, okay. So it's different.
I've had a bigger one.
He keeps changing his mind.
I'm fitting it with fans and stuff.
Yep.
It's going to be all air conditioned.
Oh, Joanne.
Oh, poor Preet. Fancy saying that I've got a black lab and the dreams were shattered. You should have been happy with the black lab. I'm a bit wary of black labs. I worked at a kennels for years because most of the jobs I've done have been either bush related or animal related, believe it or not. And the only 2 times I've ever been bitten by dogs, now bearing in mind I work with Japanese Akitas, which can be aggressive, both times was black Labradors that bit me.
Really? We had a spaniel, a cocker spaniel, and he was aggressive.
They're just psycho spaniels.
Yeah. Yep. He was like really bitey. Can't remember his name. Something weird.
We, believe it or not, we can import African greys over here. We can import cockatoos. The only one you need a special license for over here is a galah. And apparently they're like everyday thing over in Australia, isn't they?
Yeah, cockatiels are fine. You don't need a license for cockatiels. It's more of the native birds or the bigger birds you need a license for.
Yeah,
and
we can get all the birds over here, even cockatoos. But the one that's the hardest to get over here, licensing wise, is the galah for some strange reason.
Probably because they're native, like over here. But
the cockatoo.
Yeah, but I think the numbers, maybe it's got to do with the numbers that are left or something, are a lot different.
Yeah, they're just yampy spaniels. They're on the go all the while. They're like collies. Collies are another one that never sits still.
That's what ours was called, Cosby. Our black spaniel, Cosby.
Hi, Black Rose. I'm just going to go and grab me a coffee. I'll be back in a second because I need the loo.
Okay. Yeah, I'm going to go to the loo in a minute. Ooh. Does anyone else have anything they want to talk about? Sam?
Don't know.
Don't know?
Yeah, recently I just started going into, working with visual ITC and stuff like that. So I'm messing around with TVs and projectors and stuff, and it's something different to try.
I've still got to go and watch your most recent video. I haven't watched it yet. I was busy today, but I'll definitely do that tonight, and you guys should go and check it out too. I think it's really interesting. I can't wait to see what you get over the next, few months.
Yeah.
I'm
sort of looking forward to, getting out as well, because people rather me being out and about and stuff like that. So I am going to go to a house that's in this. It's in this park, right? It's a park with old American houses, and it's called the Ulster American Folk Park here in Northern Ireland. And I'm going there on the 4th of July. Very interesting. The last time we went there, that this particular house, there was a brick house, and it was imported from America. and it was a very old style house, and the process to get it to Ireland was they had to take apart every single piece of the house, inside and out, prise things apart without breaking them. Every single brick had a piece of silicone on it, and the silicone was still stuck on the bricks. But each piece of silicone had a tag with a number on it. So basically, you take the brick off, you put it on the pallet, and you had loads and loads of pallets of dismantling this house. It went into quarantine for 2 years before it could be brought into the country. And then piece by piece, it was put back together exactly like painting with numbers.
Wow.
And when they put the house together, that is the one house in the park that actually has activity of children running up and down the stairs. So it's kind of amazing that you can take a house apart, put it into quarantine for 2 years, put it together, back together in a different country and a different place, and still have that activity happening.
Yeah.
The woman that actually looks after that house, she told me off camera about it, and I just wish it was on camera at the time. But when I go back there, I'm going to ask her, any more of the experiences, and if she can't tell me straight up on camera, I'll tell it myself after I speak to her, kind of thing.
Mm.
Because
Yep.
it's not a place that's paranormal investigated, because it's a public, it's a park. They don't want to scare other people away and stuff.
Yep.
The emphasis is basically on history and stuff. So we're going to have reenactments of battles, the Confederate soldiers and the other soldiers with these big musket guns, these big, I can't remember the name of the guns, the guns from way back years ago in America and stuff like that. So you're going to have a lot of uniformed people. And actually, my friend has got made an Indian outfit for this occasion. It is her
Yep.
birthday. It is her birthday, and she likes to go there on the 4th of July. So looking forward to that.
So it'll be interesting, because you know how they say sometimes, whether the house has a residual or an intelligent haunting. Sometimes if the conditions are right, or in certain conditions the activity can increase. It'll be interesting to see what kind of happens with this reenactment and that too, whether it kind of stirs anything up or does nothing at all. So
the interesting thing the last time was, it was the one building where there was a guy with us, and I says, let's go looking for ghosts, and I took out the K2 meter, and we were just mucking around. And
I'm back.
I went up. I went up the stairs, and I had the K2. Yeah, let's look for ghosts. This kind of thing. And I tripped on the stairs, and then your man says, "Yeah, try the bed," and that. We were going around with this K2, and we were just mucking about. But it was kind of funny that I'd done that in that particular building. When we came down, the woman says, "Actually, we had a chat, and I said, so, I was starting to do paranormal investigations and stuff." She says, funny enough, this is the one building in the park that we think that is haunted and that. And it was kind of weird, because when we went in there and we were mucking around with the K2 meter, like just joking about, that was the only building I done that in.
Wow.
So did I subconsciously think that there was something going on there?
Yep.
But she had a funny story, and she did say it on camera, that one day she went out of the house to gather some wood. Now, in the old American houses, you got this basement, and you have a door outside that it's kind of slanted like that on the side of the house, and you open it up like this, and you go down and you get your wood. and she was getting the fire ready for opening time and that. And she was coming in, and she was all dressed in her old-fashioned clothes. And she walked in, and she says, standing there by the fireplace was this figure of a man with a top hat. And she dropped her wood and screamed. And the guy then fucking laughed her head off. And then she went, "Feckin' hell." She says, "I thought you were a ghost."
Oh,
You
so
know?
it was real. Oh,
Yeah,
God.
yeah.
Oh,
But on the 4th of July, people do dress in period costumes and that, and do have reenactments of different activities that happened in America a long time ago. Around the homesteads and stuff. You
yeah.
know, and a reenactment of the battle between the Confederate and the Union soldiers. Yeah, so you had these guys in uniforms with Remington rifles and stuff. The real deal, like,
Mhm.
you know. And it can get a bit noisy for a while, but you go into barns on the property, and you'll have barn dances and people wearing the costumes, and you go in. There's this part of it where it's a town, and you go in and you've got the old shops with all the old antique jars of different medicines and hardware and print works as well. A printing machine with the big blocks and stuff like that.
Yep. Are
And a
you going to,
ship. And a ship, actually.
and a
Yeah.
ship?
Yeah, inside a building, actually. There's a part of a ship. Yeah.
God. Are you going to film it when you go there, the
Oh, yeah.
reenactment? Yeah,
Oh,
good.
yeah.
That'd
Oh,
be
yeah.
good to see. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's been, I think, 2 years since we got there. We didn't get there last year, obviously, because it was closed. But yeah, it's just strange. I will go through that story again of the theory around it's possibly stone tape, but the whole house was dismantled and in quarantine for 2 years. And when it was put together, they're getting children running up and down the stairs, giggling and stuff like that.
It'd be
And this,
interesting. Sorry.
you know, and as I says, every single brick was taken apart, and when it was put back together, you see, the original house had a porch, and they didn't bother with the porch because it was an added thing. And
Yep.
when they put the house together, you could see the outline of where the porch was. So they did put it back the way it was intended. They even put back in the cracks in the ceilings the
Oh,
way
wow.
that they got the house. There was a stain on the ceiling too. They actually put the exact stain back into the ceiling and stuff like that.
Jeez.
Because obviously some modern plastering had to be done when the house was assembled and stuff like that.
Yep.
But over that whole time, you're talking about 3, 4, 5 years for the whole process. Yes, within that process and putting it back together, activity was ripe in that house.
They're
You
strong
know,
now because there's Mr. Postman.
you know.
Hmm.
So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, that'd be good. I'm looking forward to seeing that too.
Unfortunately, there'll be no ITC or anything like that. But
That's all right.
it'll be more of a tourist thing. But I'm hoping to get in touch with that lady that told the ghost story to me be off camera. And it is quite strange that I went into that building mucking around with this other guy with this K2, started mucking around. Let's look for ghosts, this kind of thing. We were just laughing and joking about it.
And there were ghosts there.
Yeah, I didn't know until after I came down the stairs. And there was no way that she could have heard me. She was in a completely different room and that. She didn't hear us mucking about and that, So
I'll be right back.
apparently there's been ghosts of children running up and down this house.
What, the one you're in?
No, I was telling Julie about a house in the Ulster American Folk Park, and they took this house. A lot of these houses came from some places around America and that. And different kinds of homesteads and that. There's wooden houses and wooden huts and stuff like that. And there was this brick house It took a number of years for the whole process, but they took apart this house in America brick by brick without breaking any of them.
Mm-hmm.
They put a bit of silicone on the brick and put a little tag on it and numbered every single brick. Put all the bricks onto pallets and all the interior, all the wood, everything, and had maps. Everything was done to the T. It was all quarantined for 2 years before it came into this country. When it came into this country, then it was reassembled on a site in the Ulster American Folk Park, with the basement already sort of dug out and ready for putting in. When they assembled the house, they found that house was the one house that had actual paranormal activity associated with it. And it started after they assembled the house.
Yeah, where I'm from, there's a museum called the Black Country Museum, and they've done exactly the same thing. They've got a load of it's recreating the Industrial Revolution in the Black Country, because that's where it started. Where I'm from is classed as the foundation of and they did exactly the same. Uninstalled all these buildings brick by brick, and have rebuilt them on the site. Now there's got to be 50 or 60 buildings at the Black Country Museum now, and a working mine and everything. And interestingly, two of the properties that they knew or were reported to be haunted, what was occurring in the buildings on the original sites is now occurring on the Black Country Museum site. So whatever's with the house has gone with it, sort of thing.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. We could be talking about stone tape theory in cases like that.
Yeah.
But I personally, myself, I think there's more activity than that particular house. There's different energies in some of these different buildings.
Yeah.
And not all of the buildings actually came from America, because there's actually part of a town inside one of these buildings, and the front of the building actually used to be a bank, and that bank was actually in Belfast City. So they took the part of this building to the Ulster American Folk Park for some reason.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, where I'm from in Dudley originally, that was where Most Haunted did their very first Most Haunted Live, was at Dudley Castle, but they've also done the Black Country Museum, which is right next door to Dudley Zoo and Castle. So they've covered both of them there, but they've got a number of ghosts at the Black Country Museum now that have actually moved with the buildings.
Yeah, I think with the Ulster American Folk Park, that would be a dream to have that, while it's closed or at night time and that. But I don't think, I think their impression of it is that it wouldn't do well for the park if it was portrayed in a haunted way, because the haunted is very largely associated with negative, which is a shame, because just because a place is haunted doesn't mean it's scary, and people associate a haunted with being scary and that, and 9 times out of 10 it's not the case, and it's just unfortunate that you have places like this that you can't do experiments in.
Yeah,
basically.
That's interesting what Catch just put. I don't buy stone tape theory. Human beings are the most complicated things that we know of. That's a bit presumptuous. Why should spirits be any less? Stone tape theory, MCAT, doesn't actually involve spirits. All stone tape theory is actually a recording of energy from an event that happened. So that's basically what you're seeing is not technically a ghost. They believe it's just a replay of almost like somebody had stood there with a film camera and recorded it and randomly put it back every so often. There's
like a memory.
No actual ghosts involved with stone tape theory. It's a recording.
It's something similar to even everyday houses. You go into different houses, and if you're kind of sensitive, you'll feel different energies in different houses. I'm going to take a break for coffee, if that's okay. I'll be back
That's
in a
fine.
second. It's my turn now. Back in a second.
Okay. See you, Joanne. Thank you for coming in and for joining us for a while. Have a good day.
My Sam's still got a glowing man on her WhatsApp. She could have used that for so many Whatsits if she wanted to be dubious about it. Just knocked the resolution down and claimed it was all sorts.
Oh, the glowing man. I had to take off because the girls were having a Barney. They were playing Minecraft, and I'm like, okay, it's bedtime. I'll let you stay up a bit later. And then they're fighting.
Minecraft. What are they arguing over? Who's digging the next tunnel?
No, they're arguing over bedtime. They don't want to go to bed. And I'm like, it's bedtime. Otherwise, they get overtired.
That, not each other. Shouldn't they be aligned with each other to gang up on you rather than Barney with each other?
This is what they do. I don't know whether it's sisterly love or twins or just kids in general. You guys can probably hear them in the background.
You know, they ain't thought it through very well, have they? The strength in numbers to get something done. You know, you don't turn on your ally.
No, that's what I said to them. I'm like, you know, you're going to grow up and you're going to need each other one day. And if you keep Barneying with each other, you know.
You know, if you want to stay up, the idea is you group together to pick on mom to get it done, not fight each other over the fact.
It's a secret, right? Yeah, kids in general. Yeah, I agree. Girls are like, I don't know. I reckon girls are so much worse than boys when they're younger.
I daughter, I was always told girls were worse than lads. I
found Xavier a lot easier than my girls. But especially when you got two together, two girls. Like one girl's okay, it's not that bad. It's still a handful. Two girls, oh. Yeah.
That's exactly what I tell my boys. Yeah, I've always been told that girls are worse than lads to bring up. Lads just tend to be more trouble as they get older. Girls tend to do it, you know, right from the second they draw breath.
Yeah, boys are full of energy and they're rough and tumble and stuff like that. Xavier wasn't always like that though. He was a very quiet kid when he was little. But the girls, they do a lot of this, a lot of bickering.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of the other side.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Tara thinks boys are more difficult, I think. You got the other end of the stick, Tara.
I was really lucky with Jay. He was never any trouble. You know, he had his moments occasionally, but he was never really any bother.
Yeah, that's good.
We used to stick him to bed at like 7:30, 8 o'clock on a night and then get him up at 6:30 the next morning. That was from day one. We had to wake him up to feed him when he was a baby because he'd quite happily stay asleep 24 hours a day.
Yeah, that's a good baby.
And he was 3 weeks late. He just didn't want to come out. He was just so laid back. It was unbelievable. Night,
Fairy. Thank you for coming in.
Have a good night, Fairy.
Yeah, have a good night, doll. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Yeah, babies like that, you know, you don't get very often. You treasure those ones.
My nephew, who was only 3 months older than him, was the exact opposite. My sister's brother-in-law used to have to take it in turns to grab 2 hours of sleep because he was literally up every 2 hours without fail all the way through the night. He was the exact opposite of Jay.
That's Charlotte.
Yeah.
To a T.
They used to have to, grab 2 hours sleep and alternate who was grabbing the sleep so that there was always somebody up to deal with it. And then he had projectile vomiting. The first time I saw it, it was like someone out The Exorcist.
Oh my God, no.
He was lying in his Moses basket in the living room, and it just came out the Moses basket like a fountain, literally. Jeez. It was like a scene out The Exorcist.
That is nuts.
Yeah, my nephew was the complete opposite to Jay. They were chalk and cheese. I was so glad I got Jay and not our Ryan.
Oh, I bet. Jeez. Anyone else have any questions, or is there anything that you want to like talk about all that for the end? We could just carry on whatever we're doing for a while. Watch what you're saying, please. That was a bit rude. What was I going to say? Yeah, I don't know. I think we had a pretty good stream tonight. We had a good discussion about everything, and yeah, absolutely.
But Kanga, if you think you've got abilities, get yourself to a spiritualist church, or at least try and find out some local development circle in your area, because you'll benefit greatly from it. Believe me, the worst thing you can do is flail around on your own. Why are you grinning, Sam? What you up to?
I actually agree.
I just quickly had to have a sandwich. I got a bit dizzy and queasy in that, and I was just there rushing back just in case you would think that I went for a number 2.
You did.
You should have brought it back.
You were eating your sandwich while you had your number 2.
Oh.
You could have brought it back and just left your screen off if you wanted to, and just talk while you were eating. It was okay.
Yeah. No, I'm fine now. Fine now. Just a little bit sort of dizzy in that, and I had to eat something, which normally helps, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's what you should do. Threaten to complicate Minecraft. That'll sort it out.
Yeah, that's what I said to them. I said they keep going. That's it. And now they're saying, "Oh, but she started it. Oh, but she started it. She said that." That's what it is.
Yeah, you should have a local one in your area. I'd have thought they're pretty international.
Yeah, definitely. Also, too, what we touched on at the beginning of the stream. So, Sammy's doing her usual Ghost and Coffee on our Thursday evening. If you guys would like to come along, that's 8 p.m. Sydney, Australia time. It's about 11 a.m. UK time. Brett is also. What's your topic for this coming week, Brett? Do you have one yet?
Decided yet?
Okay, so Brett will be doing his usual time as well, which is our roughly 6:15 a.m. Saturday. I think it's 9 p.m. UK, isn't it? Friday night.
15 for us. I don't know what time it is for you.
Yeah, about 6:15 a.m. Yeah.
Early morning for you.
Yeah. And then next Saturday, I'm going to be doing Australian phenomena. Now, that's going to kind of, it's going to surround bunyips, yowies, haunted locations, haunted houses, asylums, min lights. If there's something that you guys would like me to touch on, you can either, give me a suggestion now, or you can go ahead and leave a comment under that live, which is now up on YouTube, and I can get some information together for it for the stream next week. So hey, Seago.
Seago. Hello, Seago.
Ned Kelly. Excuse me. Yeah, it should be good, Kenga. I thought, what haven't we done yet? We haven't done an Australian one. So let's go ahead and do that.
It's very interesting here because we don't know a whole lot about Australia. In the line of the paranormal sense,
That bunyip night was the first time I'd ever heard of it. Really looking forward to that one.
Oh, really?
I'd never heard of it.
Okay, that's going to be cool. Some of them is really hard to get information on too.
The Yowie should be fairly straightforward.
Yowie, there's
I know that one, but none of the others I've heard of.
Yeah, the bunyip's an interesting one. I found it really hard to find information on that. So
Oh, bunyip. I thought you said bunion because a bunion
no,
is something to do with your
bunyip.
feet.
Hey, Dustin.
Yeah, that's a good point. It would be good to talk with an Aboriginal elder to see what their belief systems say about things like the Yowie.
Yeah, I wonder if I can arrange that.
As far as I'm aware, that the Aborigines, it's well embedded in their culture from what I've seen of the Australian channels I've watched on it.
Oh, they have a
Yeah.
plethora of different. Oh, it's huge. Yeah, I'll look into that, guys, and see if I can arrange anything. Yeah. All right. Well, I don't know. I'm stuck on trying to figure anything out. Like, any more to say? Is there anything anyone wants to touch on before we finish up, or?
Nothing I can think of.
No, I'm a bit like that too. I'm like brain fart.
You've
All right.
saved you've saved all the best for next week.
Yeah, I know. Next week will be good.
Now I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah,
Yeah, it should be good. You know.
it will be. All right. Well, we might leave it here for this week then. I'm sure that you guys are probably tired. Well, we all haven't been sleeping well. So, yes, thank you, Brett and Sam, for joining me this afternoon. And thank you to everyone who came in and participated in our conversation. We look forward to you all for next week. As I said before, links for Sam and Brett's channel is in the description below if you guys need to connect with them. But until then, I hope everyone has a happy morning, evening, night, wherever you are.
Thank you very much for having us on again.
Yeah, for having us on.
You're absolutely welcome. See you
And thank
guys.
everybody for the comments. They were brilliant.
Yeah, they
Bye.
were. Good stream.
Hey.
Bye-bye.